but I do still like it a lot.
Sorry, my shirt's riding up in a weird way.
You know, we're sitting on the floor. Shit happens. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to The Drunken Library. I'm Amber.
I'm Sam. We're back. We're doing the fucking thing.
And,
we read a book.
And I don't remember it.
She does not remember it. We finished reading it, I don't know, not that long ago. But it feels like a century ago.
It does.
So the book, we're continuing this Becky Chambers palooza, as it were.
Yep.
With Record of a Spaceborn Few, book 3 in the Wayfarer series, which means that we can finally finish reading the series.
I mean, it's still the first for me, but I'm excited that you finally get to finish reading the series.
I waited. I pre-ordered the last book and then have waited. It is 10.
I'm so proud of her.
I know, I resisted. But yeah, so this is, of the 3 that I have read, this is my least favorite.
Same.
Of the 3.
Yeah.
Kind of explained before, each one of these books kind of takes place in like a different part of the same like universe.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first book takes place on a long haul ship like in space. The second book takes place on a planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, takes
place on a bunch of places.
Yeah, specifically though, like on a homesteader ship, or like on the Exodus fleet of like homesteader ships, which are the ships that humans originally used to leave Earth when it was like no longer habitable.
Yeah.
So they originally used it to like vacate the planet, and then they were living there, and then they got a bunch of tech kind of gifted to them, by, I believe it was the Aliens specifically. So. And then they kind of just kept living there and like formed their own society and way of life. And a specific group of humans, the Exodans, just like kept living there, like for generations. And that's like the story. This is like the story of those people.
Yeah. And it's not like kind of one story or like the first book or a dual timeline story like the second book.
No, this is like a true ensemble. Like you're getting a different story from like 4 or 5 different characters. Something kind like of. That, yeah. And each one of them, it's like their relationship with like living on like in the fleet and like their time there, like either growing up there. One of them is like a teenager who's like ending his time in like high school and like deciding if he wants to stay in the fleet or like go off to college, like what he wants to be when he grows up, essentially. You have one character who's Tessa, who is Ashby from the first book, who's like, he's the captain of the ship in the first book. It's his sister who's like stayed behind and taking care of their like elderly dad, who she's like always felt comfortable in the fleet, and it's kind of her realizing she might not actually be that comfortable in the fleet after all.
What I found really interesting about this book is it really evaluates like home and place.
Yeah, like what is home? Is home about the place, or is it about
the people?
The people, or like the
mindset.
Yeah, the way of life. That kind of thing.
And I feel like it really does an honest job of like evaluating all of those different perspectives and validating all of them. It's not saying that any which way is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Just that they're all different.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get it from a bunch of different characters. Like I said, you get the one character who's like a teenager who like is so convinced he wants to leave the fleet, and then eventually he leaves, he goes off to college, and then he turns around and comes back.
Yep.
You have one character who is convinced she's going to live her whole life in the fleet.
Yep.
Who eventually decides to leave.
And that's because her daughter wanted to.
Yeah, and then she realizes that, like, this is the best choice for her family.
Yep.
And then you have one character who was raised planetside, who wants to figure out what life in the fleet is about, so he moves to the fleet, and something terrible happens to him.
Yep.
And then you have one group of characters who are happy, like, living in the fleet, but they're deeply affected by what happens to that other character, and they kind of want to help other people, like, learn about that. With, like, you just get all of these different perspectives and different, like, characters and their relationships with, like, life in the Exodus fleet, and, like, just their relationship with home and with family.
Mm-hmm.
And you also get perspective of, like, a character who's a non-human who is visiting and, like, studying the humans in the fleet.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I forgot. See,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I remember the gist, but I don't remember the details. And I wonder if it's because I listened to it as an audiobook this time around, or because we waited a while to film. For me, both with The Drunken Library and with my personal channel, if I don't film a video right after I finish a book, I don't fucking remember it.
Plus side, I remember everything, and I've read this 4 times.
Well, then we're a good combination. Cheers.
So...
But yeah. No, I did like, because there was, like, the one daughter, like, so she witnessed this tragedy.
Like, when she was very, very young.
Very young. And it, like, the whole time I was reading that, since I don't remember all the plot, I'm going to talk about my feelings.
Which is, like, an important... I feel like with these books, and in this one in particular, I think the feelings are almost more important than the plot.
Yeah.
Like, Becky Chambers is more of a character writer than a plot writer anyway.
Yep.
And it's more about the impressions and the themes and, like, the feelings you get than it is about, like, specifically the shit that happens.
Yeah, and, like, all the stuff you think about when you're reading it. I have to burp.
Cool story, bro. Beautiful. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Love that for you.
Hope you don't smell it, because it's a little rough.
I mean... I'll keep that in mind.
Whew. Anyway.
Fucking A. Alright.
So back to tragedy. So this young girl, she sees this thing. And it was, so, like, the homesteader fleets, if I understand correctly, they all are just kind of, like, hovering amongst each other in, like, a big
Yeah,
community.
they're in, like, one, like, orbit, essentially.
Okay. So she's just, like, observing space stuff. And one of the ships, spoiler alert, explodes.
Yeah, there's like it depressurizes essentially, and like fucking just fully malfunctions and like blows up and a bunch of people die.
Yeah.
Like everyone on board and like surrounding it just fucking dies.
Gone. Yeah. And like everybody in all the homesteader fleets, they feel this emotionally and they feel this weight and it's this big tragedy. And it just like made me think about like giant tragedies that have happened that like
within our lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, the one that came to mind the most, the one that I think left the biggest impression on me personally, and probably a lot of people like our age,
yeah, for sure,
is 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't understand what was going on at the time, really. It took me a while to actually understand all the stuff involved in it, but like at the time, I still remember everybody's reactions and
just like the general impression of like this was a huge thing that happened and like there were this many like lives lost.
Yeah.
And like this is a huge period of mourning for like everyone.
Even though you didn't like necessarily know anybody personally who was involved, it was like this collective trauma.
Right. And this in the story, because and it's almost like it's funny because you would think that something like larger scale would be more like impactful on you as an individual, but I think like for somebody at that character's age, because this event it's like a smaller scale event, that it would hit more personally, because I think the people on those homesteaders, it's a very tightly knit group of people that like everybody who like lives in a neighborhood, who lives on a ship, like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh my god, that could have been
us.
Us.
And everybody
that
we
care about and everybody that we know. And I think that for her was like almost more impactful because it was something that immediate, and she grew up wondering, and it happened at such a young age. Yeah. But yes, that is like the event that occurred to me too. Is like that had to have been a very similar experience for her.
Because she was what, 3 or 4,
something like that. Yeah, she was really young.
It was just interesting to see how like that defined her identity and her mindset about the safety and the security of living in a homesteadership, where everybody else is like, well, that was awful, but like we've been fine for so long. But because she witnessed this at so young, she was like, no, I want to live on a planet.
Yeah, and she was like,
I'm remembering some details.
Yeah, she was like on her way, like she was like outside, like she was like a little kid, she was like about to go outside, like she was like right there when it happened. It was this huge thing, and then it impacted the rest of her life. Like it changed the course of her mom's job, it changed like safety regulations on the ships, it changed how every aspect of her life. Yep. And it also just caused this like general anxiety for her. She was scared of like space and like pressure and all of these things. It led to like kids in school bullying her because they knew she was like nervous about stuff like that. She had like an incident even in like middle school about it.
It would always be middle school. Middle school kids are bullies.
Middle school kids fucking suck, dude. Don't even get me started on middle school. We were talking about it earlier. It's a whole fucking thing. It's a bad time.
Outside of your situation, middle school still sucks.
No, middle school's a terrible time. But like in general, middle school. Eat shit. Anyway.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you I had to transfer middle schools?
Yeah. Middle school. Eat shit.
Yeah. Hey.
But yeah, it's so interesting that like each one of these books makes you think about like a different thing that are like kind of heavy fucking topics and like how you relate, like, you know, Close and Common Orbit makes you think about like the body versus the mind and like time and just like
relationships.
And like your relationship with your family and your friends and like with yourself.
Yep. I would say the first one.
The first one's more about, I guess, relationships with other people, and then
it was relationships with other people. I feel like also not just like personally, but like societally.
Yes.
In specifically like in a way to be respectful, because like they do touch on like racism and sexism and like.
But yeah, and I think they both of the first two also kind of talk on the like found family thing a lot.
Yeah, which I think the third one does too. The found family, a bit,
but I think
it also has more.
It's more like biological family or like immediate
or
family,
home groupings.
Right? But like the found family is like a big emphasis in like the first two. But yeah, and then this one's like about home and like. Kind
place.
Of a home is where the heart is, kind of like, like I don't know, it's wild that like, and they all tie together, but like they kind of don't.
Yeah, I feel like you could theoretically read any of them independent of the others.
I have said that because they're sequels, but like they're not. Like it's a series, but you could read them in any order. You really, really don't need to do them in like the sequential order at all.
Yeah.
The first book does take place first, but the other two kind of are taking place at the same time. And there is like a disclaimer at the beginning that like the events in this book take place immediately after the end of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. But because the characters, like there's really not overlap other than between like there's one character overlap in the first and second book. It really doesn't matter. You could read them in any order. It's like not a thing.
Yeah. She's just so good at world building, and so it kind of pulls you in no matter how much you know about it. I do feel that they do. It is nice to like compound on the world building. Like once you know the rules, then you just like get to experience different aspects of it, but you're still in it.
Well, I do think it's interesting too because like different aspects of the world building get explained in each of the books, but like I said, I think you could read them in any order because, like, each of the different kind of, like, I guess, like, alien or, like, the different species, like, societies get explained in the different books.
Yeah.
And, like, you get more details about, like, the Aliens in like one book, and like the Andrisks in like a different book, and like you learn more about like the human society like in this book, and you kind of get the bits and pieces, but you don't necessarily need to get them
in that order.
You know what I mean? Like but it's cool because you can kind of
mix and match,
and you get sprinklings of everything in all of them, but you get more details depending on what you read. I don't know, it's very cool. She's a very good job of like and she's very consistent. Like there's not a lot of like plot holes or inconsistencies between like the way that the society is built up. Like
I nod like I've read it more than the one time, which I have not.
Between the books, like there's not like, oh well, she said the Aliens do this one thing in this book, but then in the other book, like it's totally it's very consistent.
Yeah. So basically, the point of that analysis is that if you see any of the books at like a resale shop,
just like pick it up and then just read it, and don't worry about the fact that you haven't read the first one, because like you don't need to read the first one first.
And honestly, if you read this one first, it's neither of our personal favorites. It's still great.
Yeah, it's really good.
But if you read this one first, then they just get better.
Honestly, ranking order, for sure, second book is best book.
I loved the first one, but the second one hit me in the feels in a very serious way.
Well, and you know, for me, that's like my metric that I judge books on. If I get hit right in the emotions and like I'm having I have that reaction, those are the books that I will like 5-star and recommend until I die. Like that's what it was with like Flowers for Algernon. That's what it was with Outsiders. So for that one, it was the one that gave me the biggest emotional reaction, which is why I think that one is like my personal favorite. And also I think it had the characters that I related to the most personally. So for me, yes. Second book, best book. So Closed in Common Orbit is my number one. It's my fave.
I want to say it's my favorite. I feel like I do want to reread them and really see. Yeah. Like, because now I know. So I kind of want to just
and obviously I haven't read the
fourth
one yet, so maybe
maybe that'll blow all the rest of them away.
It could happen. Who knows?
We're going to find out. And you're going to find out.
That'll be a first-time read for both of us, so that'll be interesting.
I just inhaled my spit.
You settle down, woman.
I'm very enthusiastic. Okay?
Clearly.
I didn't inhale it that bad. Otherwise, I'd have been going for a while.
That one will be a first-time read for both of us, so that'll be interesting.
I'm really interested to see how we talk about it, both having only read it the one time. I'm really interested. I'm so intrigued. But yeah, I feel like that'll be a thing where I'll have to be better about sticking to the schedule that we set, so that we can like talk about like however many pages at a time as we're going.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, because like I still have read the other ones so many times that I'm still like stupid familiar with the universe.
And that's gonna definitely
still gonna make a difference.
Oh yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I assume. I don't know. I would
convinced,
guess.
Yes. For sure.
So I'll probably pick up on some stuff that like, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
So anyway, it's a good book. Read book.
Yeah.
But stay tuned. We will be reading the fourth one soon, and hopefully posting a video.
Yep. Yeah. Remember, always read responsibly.